here are some of the subjects that we're covering today. You should be able to, in a minute, see some slides come up. But also, I want to make, so if you want to make some comments, then please feel free to do that. You can ask specific questions, type them in the chat, or we can go through some questions at the end. Yeah, I don't know why the slides seem to be back to front, but we'll work on that in a minute. It's always something, isn't it? We're recording this session, so you should be able to share it with colleagues afterwards as well. And if you want to, you can subscribe on LinkedIn or on YouTube. So, we've got a full program of research coming up in 2026. You can contact us if you want to know more about that. Also, I'll mention a bit about it later on in the presentation. We don't have a massive amount of time today. We're just going to do 30 minutes. So after an introduction and scope, I'm going to talk about sort of headline, like market size, how we've measured the market, and then also a bit about the structure. Then I want to talk a little bit about business model, what we're seeing happening with the software hardware mix, a little bit about identity, some interesting things happening there. Then finally, just some key takeaways from what we say today, and then a little bit of Q&A if anyone has questions. As I said, like if you don't want to ask questions here, then you can message us, you can DM us on LinkedIn, or you can just drop us an email the old-fashioned way. So let's talk about access control. So this is how we have created a structured approach to analyzing what the components are that make up the access control market. And we put that into three broad categories. So hardware, software, and credentials. And this graphic sort of summarizes where in the scope each category enlists, and it lists the sort of domains that we reference. And it also shows there what we exclude from our market sizing. So all of that stuff on the left, that's in scope of our market sizing. So both on-premise and cloud-based software. And then in terms of hardware, readers, keypads, control panels, supporting infrastructure. But there you can see what's out of scope. So things like physical opening, door turnstiles, for example, non-electronic locking, key management solutions, intercom solutions, and then specific software solutions like parking management, workplace, or visitor management software. It's not included in these numbers. So, and to be clear, like, our figures are an estimate of what we would say the current market size in. So we're not talking about like total addressable market or TAM. It's the current market size, which represents what manufacturers actually sold in a given year, or what you might say factory gate prices, before channel markup from distributors or installers. And as I said, it's not TAM, so it's not a theoretical kind of revenue if everybody who bought a product or actually did. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. What else can I say? So I mean, yeah, it's essentially those revenues that are generated from products and systems that directly enable and enforce electronic door access within a commercial environments. And our technologies, so that would include, as I said, the things I've already gone through that we don't include. So I mean, of course, if you're going to include things like those more physical opening devices, if you're going to include non-electronic locking, key management solutions, that would dramatically change the numbers. So let's start with where we think and where we've estimated the market stands today. So I've sort of given you a definition there of what we're counting, and based on that, we believe that in 2024 there was just over 15 billion in revenue generated from access control as we defined it, and we're estimating that will reach over 21 billion by 2030. So that's just under 6% growth rate. So yeah, I think that's pretty solid growth. But more interesting than that is like what's happening. The headline number, what's happening beneath the surface, and we'll go into some of those key points in a minute. I'd also say like geographically, we're seeing as well like a shift in what's happening in terms of sales. And, kind of like the story in some respects is shifting east. So we're estimating that within that time frame, the Asia-Pacific region will overtake Europe as the second largest market by the end of 2030. And I think that's going to fundamentally change where product development and go-to-market strategies need to focus as well. And Asia, and we go into this in the report, it's a distinct marker in its own right. It's in a lot of respects cloud first, has a new build profile, and it looks quite different from, say, European markets where it's a bit more retrofit heavy in terms of access control hardware and software. Interestingly as well, and I think this might surprise a few people, but it's still mid-sized specialist companies, those that generate between 100 million and a billion, that control 64% of the market. And if you add Group C to that, that's nearly 70% of the market by value. So, there's a significant amount, the vast proportion of revenue is generated there. Those that have over a billion in revenue, you can see on the left, only hold about 24% of the market by value. So, I think over the past 10 years, and we're guilty of this to some extent as well, that this consolidation that was predicted has not happened to a massive extent. So there are still opportunities for consolidation, and it hasn't happened at the rate that a lot have said it would. But yes, of course there is M&A activity, and I think that's part of what we cover as well. If you looked at the last 24 months from when we previously did this exercise up to I think September 2025, so the previous 24 months to that, we tracked about 7.9 billion in M&A transactions. And the standout deal from that is Honeywell's acquisition of Carrier's access business, which was nearly 5 billion. So taking up a large proportion of that total 7.9 billion. So on a high level, the economics of access control are really changing. Revenue is migrating from hardware sales to software subscriptions. I think vendors know this, and they want to encourage customers into high margin, long-term service commitments. And I think one of the big takeaways for us from doing this is that's changing how buyers are making decisions about purchases in access control. They're no longer focused on the upfront purchase price. Instead, they're evaluating total cost of ownership over a 5 to 7 year life cycle. So they're thinking, because of this transition to a different model, they're thinking about everything from deployment to maintenance to eventual replacement. That initial upfront cost, CapEx, is less important. And, I think that has, of course, massive implications across the industry. If we just think from competitive landscape perspective as well, like it's those the as I put at the bottom there, who really understand this sort of more platform ecosystem and recurring revenue model are those going to be the ones that do well over the next 5 years. Those who can build sticky platform ecosystems and integration depth are going to be the ones that do well. They're not just about who has the best individual product features. I think also for integrators, again, creates an interesting environment for them. Those who can differentiate through high value services are the ones that I think will be able to navigate that transition well as well. So, think like those that perhaps specialize in a particular vertical or in a different identity stack, and others that could also potentially step into more of a master systems integrator role, or at least offer that as a service, thinking about access control in the broader context of building technology. And with that in mind, we don't just cover access control. We think about and research a lot of building technologies. You can see in this graphic, this is some work we did from this year, that there are, hundreds of vendors who are offering software platforms within the operate and maintain phase of commercial buildings. They're trying to optimize some aspect of operating a commercial building. So it's quite a confusing landscape for buyers. So from an integrator installer perspective, those that can deliver high value implementation and advisory services to buyers are the ones that I think are going to have some success. Help buyers integrate valuable access control data into some of these other types of systems that you see here: workplace, unified IoT platforms. There's a lot of scope here for different partnerships, even M&A activity. Yeah, so I briefly, and perhaps I should describe this a little bit. What we've done here is look at try to categorize different types of IoT platforms. If you look at the bottom, just above foundational cloud, which is more about like the let's call it the IoT plumbing from companies like Amazon, that data integration platform, we're seeing quite a number of vendors now who are actually taking data from different systems, normalizing that data, creating what a lot of people call an independent data layer, which is then that data can then be used to inform all those decisions about how buildings are operated and maintained. Access control obviously being one of those data inputs, and really importantly to that data integration layer, IDL, is open data standards. I think that's something as well that access control and security vendors in general should start thinking more about. What are the data standards and normalization that building owners and operators are increasingly going to expect? So I'm talking about things like brick schema, real estate core, haystack. These are all semantic models, if you want, basically ontologies that describe data from not just from building systems, but this can describe the building as a whole. Whereabouts is it? Describes the types of rooms, the types of equipment in those rooms, and of course the different systems. Even the tenants, what relationship they have to the landlord, what kind of lease do they have. All of this data can be described by these data models. I think it's going to be increasingly important for access control to understand how they fit into that. And then if you look in the middle there, is a bit about unified platforms. So those are some of the bigger automation companies are trying to bring together a lot of these different types of functionality and create one platform. Buyers see this increasingly. I think there's a lot of fatigue, right, about subscriptions, about having to maintain and manage lots of different types of software. Increasingly they're looking for one supplier, one vendor, as it's been described to me by a few people, one throat to choke when it comes to software and managed services, basically. So a slide on who controls the who, right? Identity, basically. I think we know broadly, right, that access control is no longer just about keeping people out. It's about knowing who's in, and it's about orchestrating building services in response to that. So it's part of this. The data from Access is about part of this operational backbone of a digital connected building. I think it creates an interesting scenario. So security vendors are going to increasingly have to work with and understand platforms from like IT, identity access management, vendors like ServiceNow, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., and really about work with them and understand like who's going to control the building identity graph. And by that I mean the authoritative map of people, what permissions they have in terms of in access in the building, and the different building services. So that space where, of course, physical identity meets enterprise identity. I think will access control, is it just going to remain, in terms of the industry, is it going to remain like just the reliable, standardized, increasingly commoditized software, or are we going to evolve more into a platform where you're capturing the value that flows from this information and it's helping orchestrate what's going on in the building? That's where the industry needs to move. So I just quickly want to say, this is where we've taken some of that information from. This is the report we produced recently. If you scan that QR code, you'll get taken to a page. There's more information there about this research that we produced. And you can subscribe to Memory. You can either do that through an individual subscription, which will give you access to the research notes that we write on the website, and we write several per week. If you're interested more in sort of deeper level stuff, so including this report and all the reports that we write, you can have an enterprise subscription as well. So some key takeaways there. I've just picked three things. Number one, I think that, as I said, those mid-sized companies are still controlling a very significant portion of the market by value. Number two, total cost of ownership now being the primary decision metric that a lot of buyers are basing their decisions about buying access control are going to make. And of course, with identity, it's no longer just about keeping people out. It's about knowing who's in, where they are, and then us being able to use that data to inform what's going on, and allowing that data to be used within the ecosystem. I mentioned that in the title, right? That software ecosystem within a commercial building. Yeah, so a little bit about what we're doing, next year, 2026. we're going to be producing a lot more research. I mentioned a bit about research notes, so we're going to cover a lot about some of these commercial building vendors, but also commercial real estate companies, looking at what impact they're having on the landscape, writing about financial results, any acquisitions that happen within this space, and and big investments as well. And beyond that, we're also going to be looking at doing in-depth on sort of 3 core things next year. First, continuing our startup coverage. So we were doing 1 report in January, 1 report probably around July, looking at innovation space, measuring, tracking what startup companies have done, what investment has been raised, what acquisitions have happened, what that really means. As well, AI. We're gonna update our coverage on AI's impact on smart building technology. We'll be doing that February, March this year, and then finally, we're going to take a look at energy management in the context of smart grid to smart building technology, and also energy management in terms of HVAC control and optimization. We also covered video surveillance earlier last month, so I did a stream on that. So there's the 2 reports kind of go together, right? That's our coverage of physical security. So again, you can go on the website, you can find out more information on those 2 things. And just to mention, we do offer advisory services as well. We do market sizing and forecasting projects. Also, if we can do due diligence on and target screening for different, in different areas. If you're looking for understanding the landscape and what opportunities there are out there, and we're also developing our own AI services. We have our own vector database of all of this, all of our research, and you're able to access that now via API. So you can take our data and via API, you can then put that data into your own knowledge platforms, or use it to help you produce your own internal reports on what's happening in the market, and share that internally. Okay, well, thanks for listening. I'll take a look. We'll take a look now, see if there are any questions. But also, just want to say thanks for joining us this year. If you're new to what we do here, great to have you. If you're not, thanks for coming back, and wish everyone a happy holiday season, and also a happy new year. And look forward to coming back in 2026. We'll be doing more live streams on our research at that point as well. Right, let me see if we've had any comments. Thanks for, Would help if I turned the sound down, wouldn't it? Let me just check on YouTube as well. Yeah, if anyone wants to make a comment, now's the time to do it. Well, yeah, as I said, I can just spend a minute talking a little bit more about what we'll do in the new year. So I think the startup information is really interesting for everybody, not just for these sort of bigger building automation companies, but I think for anyone in security as well. I think they would find it interesting. I think we're tracking, or last time we counted, around nearly 1,300 companies across these different technology markets that are helping to maintain and operate commercial buildings. And I think it's a really interesting space. There's a lot going on, a lot of money continuing to be invested. lot of acquisition activity. So if you're interested in tracking that, understanding what that means for innovation, what people are doing, why they're doing it, I think we can help people understand that. And beyond that, we are doing more subscriber-only content. So these kind of short webinars we offer for free, but we've also now started doing a lot more subscriber content. I just did a video today that will go up earlier. So if you do want to become an individual subscriber, you can do that through the website. There's a comment here from John. In order to unlock the new software-based features you mentioned, will that unleash a wave of hardware retrofits? Well, I suppose like in terms of if you're, you might be thinking something along the line of mobile credentials. So yeah, if people have older readers, they want to take advantage of that newer technology. Will certainly drive that to some extent. But I mean, some of the software that I've been talking about is more about using that access data to integrate with other types of smart building systems. So that's more just about integrating the data, less about retrofitting access hardware like panels or readers. But yeah, I don't know to what extent. I guess it depends what kind of software people have and how easy it is to access that, and whether they have an API and lots of different scenarios of that. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to unleash a wave of hardware retrofits beyond, let's say, the impact of mobile credentials and things like that. Thanks for the question anyway, John. Well, if no one else has anything that they want to say at this time, you can leave comments on this video as well if you want to, or of course you'll feel free to drop us an email or go through the website. But yeah, just I guess remains me to say thanks for listening, and I wish everyone a happy new year, and look forward to seeing you all again in 2026. Thanks. Bye for now.